Today on Premiere Prep, I show you how I get away with using Linux as my only operating system for filmmaking. This episode of Premiere Prep is sponsored by EditShare Lightworks. The Lightworks editor has been at the forefront of film editing, having been used on many of the finest films in cinema history. Hello filmmakers, it's me, your host Micah Pendleton, and welcome to Premiere Prep. So I do what many filmmakers say is impossible, having a complete editing workflow under the Linux operating system. Well, guess what? I do it and I thrive at it, and I cannot wait to show you guys how I do it and how you guys can do it as well. So let's jump over to my workstation. As a filmmaker, the absolute #1 tool that you have to have on your workstation is a video editor, or NLE, or nonlinear editor. And there are many great options on Linux nowadays, and I have pulled up my top 3 favorites, which we will go over. My absolute #1 favorite is Lightworks. This is not because they sponsor this channel or anything. I actually tried out the software, and then I went to Lightworks and said, please come sponsor my channel, and then they said yes. It's because I love this software so much. We'll get more into it in just a second. The other option is Davinci Resolve. I'm pretty sure you've heard of this option. It is really growing and becoming an amazing editor that a lot of people love, and it is available on Linux, and we'll go more over that in a second as well. The other option is an open source option that I used myself for many years, and it's absolutely amazing, and that is Kdenlive. Again, we'll go over that in just a minute. It's also incredible. So let's jump into the computer and take a look at these 3 options. Alright, so here's how this is going to work. I'm going to show you the features and pros and cons of each editor inside my web browser on their websites, and then we'll actually jump into the editors and do a little bit of editing. So first off, we're going to start off with Lightworks, my personal favorite on Linux. It really is amazing, and one of its top pros is its amazing new interface. I know this seems kind of small, but it really is important to me. And its old interface was not exactly so user-friendly, but this new one is so simple and straightforward. Like it says here, super simple and intuitive user interface. It really is. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's just a great interface. I love the way it works, and we'll go over that a little bit more later when we actually jump into Lightworks. Alright, and then another big pro is that it's very stable. I cannot state this enough, it is very stable. I don't think I've ever had it crash on me in my use of Lightworks. It is very stable, continues to go, I can throw almost anything at it and it just goes through it. And I only have 16 gigs of RAM. I'll be expanding that more in the future, but currently I only have 16 gigs and it does great. It has many advanced pro features, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. We'll go over some of these, but let's go ahead and take care of some more pros and cons. It definitely does have some pro features, which we can go over. But it's built for the pro editor. Almost everything around Lightworks is just the fact that it's built for the video editor and feature film editor and TV show editor. I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal. Things like its implementation of their shuttle, for the Shuttle Pro and things like that, it accepts. Its keyboard and everything, the use of keyboard shortcuts, it's very much built for the pro editor. I absolutely love that. And we'll go over more of that in just a little bit. Also, it has lots of codec support built off the FFmpeg system. It's absolutely phenomenal that they use that, because I don't think I have ever tried to import something and Lightworks not accept it. Like, it will take any single video file, audio file, you name it, it accepts just about everything. And that is just absolutely phenomenal that it has that kind of support, and I absolutely love that within my editor. It takes H.264, it takes MOV files, MP4 files, you name it, it takes it. It's huge to me. It's absolutely phenomenal. Okay, and then the last big pro is that it's RPM and Deb distros. So basically, if your distro is built off of Ubuntu or Debian, or it's built off of Red Hat or OpenSUSE, something like that, it will be able to work on there. Now, it's not every single distro because it's RPM and DEB or Deb, but those two are probably the 2 most necessary installer types on Linux, and it definitely supports those, and it works phenomenally. So if you're on an Ubuntu system, or you're like me and on a Fedora system, you can definitely use Lightworks, which is huge. That's great. Cons, I'm sure I could nitpick a few little things, but the only real big con that I could think of is that NVIDIA graphics are really preferred within Lightworks. It really works best with NVIDIA graphics. And like it says, let me see, right here, real-time effects, real-time GPU pipeline, that is very true. If you have a good NVIDIA GPU, or even some of the smaller ones I believe would work just as well, honestly, just as long as it's a good NVIDIA GPU, it does a phenomenal job. As you can see on my system, I have here the actual NVIDIA drivers and everything, and it works just about flawlessly for me. Almost every single effect, actually, I can say every single effect that I've used has been real time, and it does a phenomenal job at it. So that is a little bit of a con, the fact that you really do need to have NVIDIA graphics, mostly because, like for instance, I have a laptop and it has integrated Intel graphics, and I would love to be able to edit more with Lightworks on there, and I can, but some of the interface glitches a little bit and it's not quite as smooth an experience on integrated graphics. So that's kind of a con right there for Lightworks. But all in all, we just went over the pros. It's absolutely phenomenal. So let's go ahead and move on to the next editor now, and that is DaVinci Resolve. Starting off with DaVinci Resolve's pros, number one, it is reportedly stable. I say reportedly because I myself have not used DaVinci Resolve a whole lot. We'll get more into that reason in a little bit, okay? Another big pro is it has a beautiful interface. I love the interface of this software. I mean, you can kind of see it here, but yeah, they got some more right here. I mean, it's just, it looks very, very nice. The look of it is just so smooth. It really is great. Beautiful interface. And then it's also free. So as you can see down here, it is a free download. They do have the studio version, which actually appears to have gone down in price a whole lot. But yeah, there's a free version, and it seems to really fit almost all needs that most people have. And that's a big plus right there. It's built around pro colorists, which is a pro and can be a little bit of a con in and of itself. If you're not a colorist, then a lot of these tools probably won't be necessary to you. But either way, the fact that you can do so much color control right there within your NLE, that's a pretty big pro. And as you can see here, they're color grading right there. It's really, really cool. Another big pro that it has is that it's popular. A lot of people love DaVinci Resolve. A lot of people use DaVinci Resolve. It's very much a standard, and it's available on all systems, Windows, Linux, and Mac, so a lot of people use it, and the fact that it's free, a lot of people use it, even if it's just for color grading. Another really cool pro that's actually pretty new, I'm not even sure if they have it mentioned right here on their website, but the fact that it has integration with Fusion. Let me see if it says anything about that here. I don't see it. But with Fusion, Blackmagic Design's visual effects tool, you are able to link clips directly from DaVinci Resolve into Fusion and back and forth, kind of like Adobe's integration with After Effects. That's super cool right there. And it could definitely be taken advantage of by many, many people. Now, let's go ahead and get into a couple of cons that DaVinci Resolve has. Con number one is that it has low codec support, in the free version at least. It's actually quite low. This goes back to my first reason of me not using DaVinci Resolve, is the low codec support. I actually don't think I found one that totally works within there. I know that they exist, but I don't shoot any footage that is within those codecs, and I would have to transcode everything, which for me, it's not quite doable for my workflow right now. I really should not have to transcode. I mean, that's the big thing right there. You should not have to transcode all of your footage just to work within your editor. You can do it, and it's definitely a way you can go, but you shouldn't have to. And that's why I think that they should implement FFmpeg, which is an open source standard, right there within DaVinci Resolve. If they did that, then it would have complete codec support and it would be unreal. But it doesn't, so it's very low on codec support. I really don't understand why, but it is. So that's a huge, huge con to me. It really is a big, big con. But let's go into another one, and that it only works on Red Hat set distros. So if you have Red Hat, if you have OpenSUSE, if you have Fedora or CentOS, all of those, it'll work on there. But if you are an Ubuntu person or something like that, which a lot of Linux users are, it will not work on there.
I don't know why. The installer seems like it's a pretty universal type installer. It's not an RPM installer, so I don't exactly know why this is, but they've only built it around Red Hat based systems. So that's a pretty important con right there. If you are on anything other than a Red Hat distro, you're basically not going to be able to use this software. Which for me is not a problem because I use Fedora, but for you, you would have to pick your distro around using Davinci Resolve. But with the uprise of Snap and AppImage software release in Linux, it's very possible that Davinci Resolve could become more standardized across many different distros, which would be really cool. And like it says here, Red Hat or CentOS Linux. But it does work on Fedora as well. Moving on to my last pick, and that is Kdenlive. I love Kdenlive. I used it for many years straight, and it was absolutely phenomenal during that whole time. Pro number one, it's free. And then another pro that goes right along with it being free is the fact that it's open source. It's really great. All right, so let's go over here to features and talk some more about pros and cons. It has a beautiful UI. I mean, it really is. It may not be the smoothest and most advanced UI, but it is great. It's straightforward. You can jump right in, start using it. It just works, and it works well. Next pro is that it has a lot of features. I mean, it really does. We'll get more into this later, but it has a lot of different things, titler and then effects and transitions. I mean, it really does. And video and audio scopes. It has a lot of features to include proxy editing even. It really is amazing. A big part about Kdenlive is the fact that it's now under heavy development. For a while, it was under development, but it wasn't near as heavy as it is today. It has just under the last year or so grown so much because it's been picked up by the KDE project officially and everything, and they've got funding and they're coming together and they're really making this project an amazing, amazing project, and it really is under heavy development right now. It's phenomenal. Another big pro is that it's easy to use. Even if you don't use a whole lot of video editors, this one you can pretty much jump right into and start using. It's fantastic. You can literally jump right in and almost know everything you need to know about it. That is if you have at least a little bit of experience with editors. Another big plus, which we've gone over a little bit for both the other options, is that it can be used on like literally any distro. Kdenlive is literally so popular within the Linux community that almost every distro has a version released for it. And the fact that it's open source and the distro people, the people who make the actual distro, can actually take the source code, compile it themselves, and put it right there on their system for you, which is absolutely phenomenal. It also has a lot of support for codecs. It uses the FFmpeg standard, which I talked about with Davinci Resolve. Really should have. This one has it. So it can read just about, well, it can read like any video format. It's got basically the same format support that Lightworks has. It really is phenomenal, the fact that it can read so many different formats. It's absolutely phenomenal. And it runs on almost any hardware. We talked about the limitation with Lightworks being an NVIDIA GPU, which I believe is pretty much the same for Davinci Resolve. This one has a lot of hardware support. And I'm not just talking this one. I'm also like as far as the Shuttle Pro, which it does do, but I'm also talking like your CPU, GPU. I mean, it runs flawlessly on some of the most minimalistic hardware. It's phenomenal. It really does a great job at that. All right, now it does have a couple of cons. Let's get into them. The big con, which is one of the biggest reasons why I went away from Kdenlive, or really the main reason, is that it's not as stable. It's good, but it's not great. It started crashing on me a little bit. Some of the more heavy projects it couldn't take care of, and it would crash every once in a while. And it's good, but again, it's not stable, especially with the larger projects. And a lot of that is due to the next con, which is RAM issues. It doesn't take advantage of your RAM quite correctly. If you have a lot of RAM, it's not as big of a problem, but it doesn't seem to want to handle your RAM so much. It does have a fantastic backup system. It really does a good job at that, but once it crashes, you have to open it back up. Sometimes your work will be lost within the last, 10, 15 minutes of work. It's really not the best as far as RAM support or RAM optimization goes and stuff like that, but it's good but not great, again. And not much GPU integration. So like effects and everything, most of that runs through the CPU, which is not as fast and it's not as smooth. It works great as far as just use with the CPU, but it lags a little bit in playback. You can tell that if it just had some better GPU integration, it would probably be a lot smoother. So those are pretty much the cons of Kdenlive. Now let's actually jump into the editors.
This episode of Premiere Prep is brought to you by EditShare Lightworks. Lightworks is Hollywood-proven video editing software that is available on Windows, Linux, and Mac. It's been used on movies such as Hugo, The Aviator, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, The Wolf of Wall Street, and The King's Speech, just to name a few. With Lightworks' wonderful new user interface, it's ready for any type of project you throw at it. It's also built on FFmpeg, which allow Lightworks to read nearly any video format. Lightworks even works with Red Footage, ProRes, and DNx HD, and has 10-bit color capabilities, multicam editing, hardware I/O support, many built-in effects, and far more as well. Go to lwks.com and use promo code FilmWorld2017 to receive a 40% discount off your Lightworks purchase. A link is in the description. And please make sure you tell them that Filmworld sent you. Also, a big thank you to the EditShare Lightworks team for 1, their amazing piece of software, and 2, for sponsoring this episode of Premiere Prep.
All right, so jumping first into Lightworks, let's jump right into it. Now, as you open it up, you have all your different projects here that you've taken care of and you're still working on, of course. So let's jump into, say, this one, for example. I did this one for work, did a story of a local blacksmith, and it was pretty fun. So we got a little bit of an edit here. So we've got him talking, and we've got some B-roll right over it. And it handles it really well. So here's all of our different clips. Now here's something cool, is once I select all of these, the file management is phenomenal. So I can select these, and I can hit Make, Bin from Selection, and then I can rename this to, say, B-roll. And there we go. But of course it's still here within your clip folder, but you create a bin. Which I know most editors actually have this, but the way that Lightworks takes care of it, it's really good. I like that. Alright, so cutting wise, a little bit of one thing that takes some getting used to, for me at least, is like, for instance, you hit X to make a cut. Well, it just made it across everything, and I'd have to make it only on this one. So see there? Now we can undo that. So the cut's gone. But if, say, we only want to make a cut on here, we will deselect all these other tracks, and then we can make a cut. And the other ones are not affected, it's only this one. Which is not a huge problem, but it takes a little bit of getting used to. It's definitely not a problem, I should say. It just takes some getting used to, which I pretty much have. So let's undo that. Okay, so now say we want to add a transition in between here. So let's add a dissolve. We'll hover over until we get these 2 white bars connecting it. And then we'll right-click, add, under transition, dissolve. And there we go. Straightforward dissolve. And as you see, it's very responsive. It's instant. I press play, that thing goes, and that's its GPU integration. It's really great. It works really fantastically. Alright, so let's come over to this one. So say we want to do a little bit of color grading on here. We go to the VFX tab up here, which I love the way that Lightworks integrates these tabs here. We'll go over more of that in a second. But let's add a little bit more red tones into there. Okay. And into the shadows. So there we go. So if we disable this, there's it before, there's after. You know, just a nice simple little grade to make it feel hotter. And of course, it plays it very smoothly. Hit play and it goes. But we have other effects here that we can definitely play with. Some recently used effects right here, and of course our favorites. But let's go down to stylize. Say we want to make it, say we want to make it a old movie. Let's actually come over here to color, scroll down, and we'll make it like, what the heck, something out of the 70s. It's kind of a cool pre-built effect right there for you. Kind of crazy, but that's something you can definitely do. So they've got a lot of really cool pre-built-in effects. You also have green screening and stuff. Actually, under here, under key, you have green screening and blue screening, Luma keys, all that kind of stuff. It's really great. So like we can have this Luma key here. Boom, the fire is just right there on top of the guy. Oh no! But it's really cool, all those different effects that they have. And they all work really, really well. I love the way that they work. And super smooth, super fast, again, because of that GPU integration. So now let's go over to our audio tab, and let's take care of some audio. So we can, of course, add some points, and then you can add a point here and take down this spot. I mean, it all works really, really well. And it's very simple to use, straightforward. Everything's right here. I love it. And something cool that is very cool, if you want to do some quick audio changes within the actual edit portion, if you hold down Shift, it'll actually change it basically to audio mode. And I can select this point here, grab it, move it up and down, change the gain on this specific portion of the clip right here within the Edit tab. So I don't actually have to jump over here to edit, but I can. And there's also a couple of cool settings here, so I can make myself sound like a robot and things like that, all right here within the editor. I absolutely love it, works great. But if I right click and go down to export, and then I say export as MOV, I can do something pretty cool. I can make the audio separate as a WAV file. Of course I don't want to do that right now, keep it embedded. But it's pretty cool, and it has a lot of different features you can do here. Of course, it can also export in 4K. If you want to work in 4K, it does that. Also up here under video, we have the ability to work with 10-bit color. Super cool. Oh, and that's also cool there, red decode quality. So you can also view with LUTs and stuff like that. It has one pre-built-in LUT, but that's definitely nice right there. Also, if you want to work in widescreen formats, you can add your letterboxes here, say 100 on top and 100 on bottom. Then we hit apply. Check that out. Just made us a widescreen aspect ratio. Love it. Works great. And as you can see, all these clips here have also been changed to that. So when you add that letterbox, it changes everything to that aspect ratio. Super cool. I love that. So that's a very brief look into Lightworks. As you can see, it's very smooth, very straightforward, very simple. Really, really love it. Take off this letterboxing here and hit apply. Also, it has autosave constantly. It's always auto-saving. So in the unlikely event that it crashes, actually more than likely your electricity is going to go out. Say your electricity goes out, your file, your work, it's still safe because its autosave is phenomenal. So now we're done with Lightworks. Let's go ahead and jump into DaVinci Resolve. All right, so we get greeted by this project manager here, and we just got an untitled project right here. Let's go ahead and open it. And it comes open on the other screen, and I actually have to come over here and hit move to bring it to this screen. I guess that's a little bit of a con there as well, because it doesn't have exit and minimize, the function options right there. It's kind of crazy. But so maximize. And then here we can manage our media. Now check this out. I'll try to import this MOV file right here. Where'd it go? Nothing. That's kind of a problem. So let's try to find some media here. We'll just come over here and I'll try to add an MOV file here. Nothing. I can't get anything to import because it has that very low set of codec options. It's very frustrating to me. It doesn't make sense. Why don't they just use FFmpeg? I don't know, but it's a problem and it doesn't seem to work. Okay, but let's go ahead and jump over here into edit. And as you can see, again, it's a very nice, very slick, straightforward interface, a little bit advanced, but I know that's kind of contradicting straight and advanced, but it really does seem to work good. Let's come over here to color. Got all of our color tools. I mean, it's really awesome the way this is all set out. It feels very much like a pro coloring system and all that. It's really great. We come over here to deliver, and we can change all of our presets for YouTube. Change it to 1080p. Heck, change it to 4K. But it's really great the way all of this is set up. They do a fantastic job with this editor, except for that stupid problem with the lack of codec support. And the fact it only works on Red Hat distros, which again for me is not a problem, but for you guys it may be if you want to use something like Ubuntu. But you can't, because it's only on Red Hat systems. But again, so codecs and Red Hat systems. So we can't really look much into Resolve. Sorry, that's just the way it is because no codec support. Have I mentioned the fact that it doesn't hardly have any codec support? I think I have. Starting to feel like a broken record. Anyway, And because it doesn't have the function buttons up here, let me see if I can exit from out here. Quit DaVinci Resolve. There we go. Now let's take a look at Kdenlive. And as it loads up, there we go. As you can see, the interface, it is very, very nice. We have our audio meters right here. We can get even audio meters on the side and histograms and all that kind of stuff. Really some cool stuff there. Let's take a look at this. So this is one of the last things that I actually ended up editing inside of Kdenlive. As you can see, push play, turn that down a little bit. Push play, it does a pretty good job, pretty smooth. But as soon as I add effects to it, so like say here we'll add a transform modifier straight onto here. And we won't even change anything. It's already kind of choppy. I haven't even changed a thing and it's kind of choppy. If they implemented GPU support, better GPU support, I don't think this would really be a problem, but they haven't, and it gets kind of choppy, especially once you start adding more and more effects. Even some of the color tools will make it go pretty choppy. I actually found myself deciding not to color grade just because it would get so choppy, and that is a problem. You should not have to choose between color grading or actually editing. It's a no-no. You should be able to just straightforward, boom, 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 there you go, color grading. And that's a bit of a problem there within Kdenlive, but if you don't have to color grade, oops, like see, there we go, we've got an effect on top and it's running kind of choppy. But again, it's a great free open source option. I definitely loved it. I would love to see more development on it. And if you guys use it, it is definitely a great way to go. If you're trying to stay free and open source, it really, really is good. And you can have this installed on as many systems as you want because it's free and open source without any issues of licensing or anything like that. And again, it also works on pretty much every single distro. So that is Kdenlive.
Those were my top 3 picks for video editors available on Linux, and we haven't even begun to scratch the surface. There are many, many more that are absolutely amazing, and many of them are open source. But now, another tool that every filmmaker needs is something to do visual effects. We all have those green screen shots we have to do. We all have those basic composites we need to do, adding some titles in and things like that. And there are several great tools available on Linux that are After Effects replacements, if you will, and I cannot wait to show them to you. 2 of which I have installed on my system and have used, but another one I actually haven't used, but I know that it's there and it's an absolutely amazing looking tool that I would love to be able to show you guys as well. So let's jump into visual effects tools.